Welcome to Architects of Innovation, brought to you by Spyglass Partners, where we dive into minds of visionaries and leaders who have paved the way. I'm your host, Joseph Jewell, and each week we're going to sit down with leaders to unravel their success stories, explore the skills that got them where they are, and discover how they're giving back to the community. We're here to celebrate their journey, share invaluable insights, and of course, talk about the latest trends. Get ready for a blend of inspiration, knowledge, and knowing me, a few surprises along the way. This isn't just a podcast. As the name suggests, it's a conversation with the architects of innovation. So without further ado, let's jump into this episode. Chris, introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. My name is Chris Williams. I am currently the Developer Relations Manager for HashiCorp for North America. In my career, I have been an enterprise architect, a solutions architect, a solutions engineer. I do a lot of stuff for the community. So I have a weekly podcast called Brown Bag. I have two different community groups, the AWS Portsmouth User Group and a now defunct, one. I have one community group because the other one's defunct. So there's no point in even talking about it. And I blog on mistwire.com and I'm snarky on social media. So hi.
You're snarky on social media, definitely like that. You probably have enjoyed a couple of my pro tips.
I have, yes.
But before we start talking about the now, tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are. Like a little bit of backstory. Like, have you always wanted to be where, in technology, or I noticed your degree is in psychology, right? So
yep.
I guess we don't necessarily have to do a therapy session today, but give us a little bit of the background, man.
So that is actually how I got the title Cloud Therapist. That's my other title. So my degree was in psychology. I actually started as pre-med back in university, but me and my roommate, who was a CS major, really liked playing video games. I still do. I still play games all the time. Back then it was Doom. And me and Tom, my roommate, we wanted to network the room together so that we could play. And this was pre-internet. I mean, this was just when the internet was coming out. So I bought a Switch and I bought a couple of network cards and I learned how to do networking so that I could play Doom with my roommate.
That's cool.
Tom's guidance counselor came to our dorm room, saw the networking setup, congratulated Tom for such a pristine job on the networking. Tom said, no, there was the pre-med guy that did it. And the university hired me to rewire the entire campus's, the CS department's networking structure. That's how it started. I rewired the university. I then got into StarCraft, and so I started having LAN parties in the different rooms of the university playing games.
And they hired you to do it, so
they hired me to do it. I got my CCNA, I got my MCSE, I got my Linux certificate, all the certs, so that I could assemble things. And then it just snowballed from there. Then I was building data centers. Then I was migrating data centers. Then I was virtualizing data centers, getting into my VMware days. And then I was moving all of those virtualized data centers up to the cloud, getting into the cloud space. And so I've been there ever since, helping Fortune 100s do all the things. Simultaneously, while I've been doing all of that, I've also been doing community stuff. And HashiCorp and I go way back. A lot of my friends work at HashiCorp, and they were like, you should come here and be a DA. It's what you're doing at night anyway. Come do it for us for money, what you've been doing for free during your off hours. And I was like, I could do that. Wait, that's a thing.
That's a thing. Count me in.
Yeah. So I came over, and it's been about a year of being a DA now, and I super love it. It's amazing.
We got a comment on TikTok from Taylor Desson. He said, "I see you." It's like, hey, TikTok people. And then we got Luke says the two snarkiest people of LinkedIn with one podcast. I mean, we've kept it pretty chill so far. We haven't, haven't went crazy yet.
We're gonna keep it tame, Luke. This is LinkedIn.
It's LinkedIn. It's Architects of Innovation. So it's almost like you were passionate about something and you kind of accidentally fell into the tech world just because, you know what, I really want to game with my friend here. Like, let's do it, and that's really awesome. We got a comment from someone says, getting paid to do what you enjoy, doing it in your free time equals a dream job. I mean,
100% Sloan.
Got a point for sure. Or have there been any like lessons learned along the way?
So many
that stick. What is one that sticks out to you that, I don't know, maybe it was, a situation that, is seared into your mind to this day, that kind of thing?
Oh my gosh. I used to try to just write all these things down as like, tales of wisdom to impart to the new IT crowd and stuff like that. 9 times out of 10, the folks that are in the room, like if you're working on a project. So my role prior to becoming a DA, when I was an enterprise architect, I was kind of like a smoke jumper. My companies would rent me out to their customers, to their third-party customers, to fix a project, like multi-million-dollar projects that were on fire, going sideways. They would throw me into the middle of the fire, and I would help to figure out what was wrong, why was this project going off the rails, and how to get them back on the rails. And honestly, the reason why I got the name Cloud Therapist was because I would just go into the room and start asking dumb questions. Like, hey, I'm Chris Williams. You guys just hired me and are paying my company a lot of money to fix things, but I'm going to start by asking very, very stupid questions. And I would go into these boardrooms and I would say, okay, what's the problem? Why isn't this working? Well, why are you trying to do it that way? And I would just walk it back from this, oh my God, my hair's on fire, to this more forest for the trees kind of view of what the situation was and try to figure out what was happening. And it turned into these therapy sessions. At the highest levels of business, the problems are never technological. The problems are always political / personal / personality conflicts. And if you can get the CTO and the CMO to put on their get along t-shirt and just figure out how to work well together and communicate to each other effectively, then all of their subordinates are going to communicate well and effectively to each other. And then that problem where engineering can't do the thing because QA is throwing these problems over the wall and blah, 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 blah. All of that goes away when people start actually talking to each other. So it was funny because when I got into this career, it was because I love tech. I still love tech and I love video games. And I would help to fix problems at a very deep technical perspective. But as I matured in my career, the higher up I got, the less of my technical chops were being used and the more of my psychological chops. The thing that the degree that I actually got was being leveraged more in a technological capacity than preach. I love it. Yeah. So it's there's a lot of, everybody's just human. Everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. People get their feelings hurt. People have pride. Excuse me. So when you're trying to fix a problem, you come at it regardless of how many zeros are on the project, whether it's a $15 project or a $15 million project, the same problems crop up. And you just have to, there's a lot more feelings and emotion on a $15 million project because we're like, oh my God, we're hemorrhaging money. But at the end of the day, it's humans and everybody doesn't know everything. And if you pretend that you do, you're lying. So you've got to, take a little bit of humor and give people some grace to communicate and do the right thing. Everybody wants to do the right thing. Nobody comes into a project and says, "Oh, I'm here to like screw everybody." Even though sometimes it feels like they're just like doing nothing but knocking over anthills.
It's like, you're doing that just to piss everyone off, aren't you?
Right. They're not, or they don't know that they are. But it's and then you have to explain to them because sometimes people do have communication issues. Where they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize I was doing that," and you have to spell it out to them.
Everyone has a why. It's finding. That's the journey.
Exactly.
And then Luke said, "There's no zeros in a $15 project. If you look at it to the decimal point, it's 15.00. So there's still some zeros, Luke."
Yeah, Luke.
Jeez. Just not as many, and a lot less people probably involved for a $15 project. But
I was trying to think of a Fiverr gig or something. I wasn't trying to literally put. Luke's such a stickler.
maybe you paid $15 for Chat GPT and created an entire application that now the world can use, and it goes super well, and you replace a bunch of people or yourself, something like that.
I did just create an agent to work myself out of a job. I created my replacement on ChatGPT. I made a thing called DevOps Buddy, who knows Terraform, AWS, Python, all the things that I know. I fed it me, and I said, "Be my DevOps buddy and teach me things." And honestly, he's kind of better than I. He's already got a purple beard and everything. He's super cute, and he's actually is funny. I told him to have a sense of humor, know all of these things, and repeat back in the manner of a psychologist how you would do stuff. I've literally created my replacement for $20.
Wow. And I know it's $5 more than 15, but I mean that could be a project that causes a lot of people to have certain feelings and stuff.
Yeah, and that is an entirely new. So actually, tonight on one of my own podcasts on the AWS Portsmouth User Group, we have the first AI prompt engineer that I met in the wild. Her name is Suzanne Guzman, and she's going to come on and talk about how to effectively be a good prompt engineer, which I think is going to be the next job skill.
Yeah.
Back in the early 2000s, having good Google foo was amazing. Like if you could leverage Google effectively and get good information back faster, that made you a good engineer, because nobody remembers everything. Everybody has to just Google it. Now Google is kind of crap. I mean, it's a lot of sponsored links. It's a lot of please buy this. It's a lot of, oh, my elbow hurts. Well, you've got cancer. So now Google is not great, and learning a new skill like how to sort through large language models and use them effectively is going to be a fantastic skill for the next generation of tech folks to have.
Yeah. When I got my degree in IT, like I always joked with like my mom and anybody who would ask about it, it's like the degree taught me how to Google. Like that's what that degree did. Now,
Yep.
Again, you're saying Google's not that great anymore, but what I like when ChatGPT first started getting really big, I was like, guys, it's just fast Stack Overflow, right? Like now you don't have to search through threads and go to different threads. You just go to it and there you go.
You know what's funny? Engagement on Stack Overflow has dropped precipitously since September of last year. If you look at the engagement numbers on their annual reports, September of last year, nobody wants to go on Stack Overflow and get berated for asking a dumb question. So they just go to, I mean, because Stack Overflow can be toxic. Like if you go on there and you ask a quote unquote dumb question, they'll be like, it was already here, fail. No, what you meant to ask was this. Why are you stupid? And I'm like, oh my God, calm down. If like first time newbie programmers on Stack Overflow get harassed mercilessly. So they're like, screw it. I'll just go on GitHub Copilot or ChatGPT or something else and have it nicely answer my question.
Yep, and thank me for asking it. We got a couple comments. Jason says he's has a similar prompt that he's developed. That's cool. Got multiple DevOps buddies
AI Jason
running around. Yep, AI Jason. Stephen Evans. Now you can sell it to other companies for $1 million. Yeah, you gotta bring the PPO. Are we aging ourselves?
$1 million.
And then Jason says the degree for me was about developing critical thinking and coping skills. Yeah.
Coping is a good one.
Yeah. Emmanuel says, I'm happy to join the group today. Happy to have you.
Welcome, Emmanuel.
And Jason says, I'm glad my focus was on basket weaving. Oh, man. But yeah, so I was trying to, so I do the pro tips on LinkedIn, and I tried to get ChatGPT to kind of help me create them.
Mm-hmm.
But it won't. It's denied me repeatedly. It just won't be mean. So that's what I always say. It's like ChatGPT is not going to replace me. It's not mean enough. So I haven't figured out how to replace me quite yet, or at least like my pro tip series. But people are like, yeah, we can definitely tell that's not ChatGPT. It's like, yeah, I tried. I mean, it just won't do it. But
you should check out the show tonight. She's going to walk through stuff like that, and if you want to ask her how to do that, she can walk you through it. She's quite good. She's actually written a couple of books on leveraging AI, and she's CEO of 2 different companies. She's quite brilliant.
And that's the on V Brown bag.
No, so this one, this is my other gig.
Your other
This is called the AWS Portsmouth User Group, and
okay.
normally we do it hybrid. We do it live locally, but then we also have a Zoom session up so that people can attend remotely. We started doing that during the pandemic because everybody was home remote anyway, so we bought a Zoom account. Tonight we're actually having some pretty crappy weather here, so we're gonna go back to full remote for tonight. But then next February we're gonna do the reInvent recap, and so that'll be hybrid again.
Okay. And do you have a
Pitch more
link to
stuff.
that?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
We can,
a
so we could post a link in the comments once we end, and
cool.
that way
Thanks.
everyone that's watching can check it out or join the user group, since it looks like it has a remote aspect too. So it'd be cool to jump in and to listen in for sure.
Yeah, I'll post the link in our private chat so that you can put it up whenever you want to.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Mhm.
And but you also have like V Brown bag, right? Then you have like over 2,500 episodes. When did you start this? Like 2015, 16, something like that?
So it started 15 years ago. So what?
15 years ago. Okay. So
Yeah,
it's a lot.
we started 15 years ago. And when I say we, I did not start it. My buddies Al and Cody started it, and I came along. I want to say about 6 years later, 5 or 6 years later. And so we've created together total like 2.2 thousand pieces of content. We have the weekly podcast. We go to conferences and we do tech talks at the conferences. It's really cool because what we'll do. So there's this thing called CFPs, call for papers, and when you're running a conference, you put out a call for papers so that you can see who wants to talk at your show. That then goes through a vetting process, and the people that make the cut come and talk at the show. But then there's like thousands of papers that didn't make it. What we did was we went to the conference producers and we said, hey, give us all of your rejects. We will reach out to them. We will come to your conference and we will let them talk at our community booth and do a 15-minute talk instead of an hour talk, but they're still getting to talk at the big show. So we kind of like started doing that at VMworld. We did that. We started, I don't remember what year we started doing that, but it was prior to when I came on there. And it allows people that still want to talk, that maybe their topic wasn't salient enough or anything like that, to come on and do that. And so we'll do 4 15-minute talks per hour, the entire length of the conference. So we'll do like 120 talks and get them just cranked in and out. It's super fun. It's also super hectic and draining.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love it. I absolutely love it.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Speaking of hectic and draining, that reminds me of something you mentioned earlier, that before you got into the role you are now, you were a smoke jumper, which, I mean, if in my head, like you're literally jumping out of a plane, putting out fires, which just in the tech world, right? So
Yep.
that sounds hectic. Like you're literally walking into these, huge projects and having to put out the fires. Like, can you tell us a little bit about that, and like how, like, or like if you have like one story that was like the most hectic, or something like that?
So obviously I can't say any names of any companies.
Right.
I've worked for the largest insurance companies, the largest medical companies, the largest financial companies. There was one company that is a very large streaming company, and they were trying to get a product out the door, a mobile app, and it was absolutely going sideways. Cats and dogs fighting. Everybody was like at each other's throats and all kinds of stuff. I was brought in to be the director of DevOps for the engagement and just start figuring out what was happening. And I got there, and there was just like a ton of communication issues, a ton of toxicity, a ton of like the folks that had the knowledge were not communicating effectively. The folks that had the power weren't communicating amongst each other as well. There was some like shady money shenanigans happening too that was later uncovered. And so my job literally, I went in at the lowest. I just started interviewing everybody. I one-on-ones with like the engineers, the directors, the SVPs and stuff like that. And I just started asking dumb questions.
Cloud therapists at work.
And then I finally got up to the CTO, And I started talking to that person and asking, okay, how do you think things are going? And and they responded one way, and I was like, that is entirely inaccurate. And here is all of the evidence as to what is actually happening under your roof. And so there was like massive wholesale changes that happened. And so the project had been stymied for, it was supposed to come out in 6 months. It had been a year and a half since that 6-month deadline had passed.
Wow.
And then we got it out after another 3 months.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah. But like I said, though, it was human error. It was communication. There was not one single technological problem in the entire stack that was like, stopping anything. It was just folks tripping each other up.
No. Again,
But, I mean, yeah.
yeah. I mean, you were saying in the beginning that, and it's not the tech, it's the people, and you just kind of have to get out of your own way and start communicating, right? So,
yeah, but it's super fun too. I mean, going into a thing like that, I know it's not for everybody. It's certainly not something that. And enjoy is a strong word for how I feel about it. I love the finished product. When I'm in it with everybody like that, I'm still having to look at my picture back there and go, okay, breathe. All right. Find your center. Okay, let's tackle this again. It's it's super hard. It's hard, but it's gratifying work because you're actually making a difference in like really, really big environments. I mean, I've seen things of scale that are just absolutely insane. 30,000 virtual machine environments. Things that are like pushing the edges of physics. Some defense contractors that have to have tolerances within certain sub microseconds, otherwise the nuclear codes get washed out. It's like big deals, and it's like it's really fun and juicy to like get like in the weeds with these things.
Yeah, and be like, yeah, I helped with that. Like, it's definitely a lot of I guess like gratification, like at the end of it. But do you feel like that's why you push so hard, like in your spare time of like building a network, building community, because you saw just the people problems within organizations, and did that kind of like ignite you, like, hey, I can solve this like in my free time and actually enjoy it, like.
So the community thing is essential. Some people say it's a value. I was going to say, is it a value add? No, it's essential. It's absolutely positively essential. You have to have community around these things. There's a lot of folks out there in these organizations that when I'm talking to them, I'll be like, you're really smart and you're well spoken. Have you ever thought about coming on a show, aka my show, aka V Brown Bag? Here's here's the playlist. What do you think? And they'll be like, oh no, I would never do anything like that. And then I talk to them for a while. I work on them, and like 3 months later, they come on the show, and then they see the world, because these are highly technical people that have been at a company for 10 years. They get these blinders on, and they don't see what else is available out there. I met this one lady who was extraordinarily good. Oh my gosh, she was one of the best Python people I've ever seen in my entire life. And she was making $90K at a very large company. And I was like, what are you doing? I was absolutely blown away. And I probably shouldn't say numbers or anything like that. That's she wasn't making what she was worth.
Yeah.
And she came on the show. We had a long conversation afterwards. I was her hype man. I was in her corner. I was just like, and soon enough she started like looking around, and then she got an amazing offer from an amazing company and is now doing extraordinarily well for herself. And I love doing that. I love stories like that, and I love making that feasible for people that don't look like me, that aren't, because I've had it easy. I've had a very blessed life, and so I like to make sure that everybody else gets a taste of that.
I like that. That's awesome, man. We got Steve Rock that says, took a psychologist to fix the people. I mean,
I love Steve Rock. He's amazing.
He has a point. I mean, you put you were just as much using your technical ability as your psychology degree when you were doing the smoke jumping, which is
Mm.
pretty cool. And talking about the community, you mentioned that you have a like a virtual AWS group. Is that right? Is that the event? One of the events that you were hosting tonight? Is that with that group?
Yeah, so the AWS Portsmouth User Group is a monthly event that happens on the second Tuesday of every month. And that is usually, and that's another one of the things that got me the AWS Hero thing. So I'm an AWS Hero. I'm a VMware vExpert. I have some, basically that just means I'm an unpaid cheerleader that likes the products. So I use a lot of AWS. I like talking about it. I like talking about the services. So they gave me the designation of Hero. Same with VMware. And so I do the pug on the second Tuesday of every month, and V Brown Bag is every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have folks come on and talk about the things that get them excited about tech.
That's awesome. That's it's like hashtag goals. How did the AWS group get started? Was that something that you championed, or I guess how did that come to be?
Well, so there was a Boston user group,
Mhm.
and there was a large underserved community outside of Boston proper. Because so I live in Portsmouth. I live close to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I did not want to drive with traffic at night into Boston. It's a 45-minute drive with no traffic, but there's never no traffic, so it takes me at least an hour and a half to get into Boston proper. So I didn't want to go there. So I was like, you know what, screw it. I saw that two guys, Steven and Matt, were making a user group up here. They hadn't even had their first meetup, and I was like, hey, I want to help. And so I jumped in, and I had been doing a previous user group for a while. And so I was like, I kind of know what I'm doing. Let me help you guys out. And they're like, yeah, come on in. So the three of us got the pug going 7 years ago, a while ago. And so we were able to like get folks outside of Boston proper that didn't want to drive into town. And so, yeah, we've been doing that for a long time. We have a regional community day where we get all of the different user groups together, the Boston user group, the Connecticut, Rhode Island, us, Maine, we all get together and we have a big community day once a year. And that's like a 1-day event where everybody comes to like a big hotel, and we have like, a keynote speaker, an expo hall, like a little tiny mini reInvent for the
Yeah,
New England area.
that's pretty
Um,
awesome.
yeah, it's super fun.
When is that coming up this year?
Well, I mean, since the pandemic, things have been very wishy-washy and sketchy, so we have not actually scheduled one for this year. TBD, we'll figure it
TBD?
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can follow up on that.
Yeah.
And it's so that like the pug, Luke, sorry, he's not talking about your dogs. He's like the public user group is like it's learning in public, right? So can you talk a little
Mhm.
bit about like, I mean, it, what is the benefit of joining a user group, learning in public, that kind of thing?
So there's a ton of different things, but if I was going to break it down into different areas, if you want to learn in public, the most terrifying yet most effective way to learn is to teach other people.
Yeah.
So when I wanted to get my Terraform Associate certification, I said, "Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll contact my friend Andrew Brown, and we'll do a Terraform boot camp." 7,000 students signed up for this thing,
7.
and I was like, I better know my crap.
Yeah.
So we did the Terraform boot camp. I wrote an article for freecodecamp.com, which was it was going to be just like a little quick hitter. It turned into like a 5,000, 10,000 word document on all of the things that you need to study for to pass the certification. And even with all of that, I still hadn't taken it because I was terrified that I was going to fail it after I'd done all that. So then I finally sat it and I passed it. And then I was like, okay, I'm not a fraud.
Yeah. I only taught 7,000 people how to do this. And
I better get it on my own.
yeah.
So teaching in public is a huge driver for me, but the folks sitting in the audience too. I mean, they learn so much. They pick up, they get the bug, the community bug. The people that show up regularly for the user groups, I get them to talk on stage, or they bring their friends and they all learn about it and nerd out and stuff like that. It's a bunch of nerds playing show and tell. That's all we're doing,
Yeah.
and it's just crazy fun.
Yeah, and I mean that's actually kind of how I started with podcasts. Is like someone invited me to be on one, and I was like, that sounds kind of scary. And then I did. I was like, this was awesome. I'm gonna
Yep.
do it now.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
so it's essentially the same thing in tech, right? Like you get involved in the community, you get that excitement, and it helps. Like I mean, accountability partners, like just
Mhm.
and you're having these conversations about what you're learning. So it's not just hey, I sat by myself and I learned this and I enjoyed it, but eventually you may get bored. You may like get pulled some in another direction or something like that. But if you have a community behind you, people that you're talking to, learning with, like that makes I feel like that would make it a lot easier to stick to it as well.
Oh, it totally does. Currently, the V Brown Bag crew, me, Shala, Roger, and Sean, we are doing the 100 Days of Python or the 100 Days of Code challenge. So we reached out to the preeminent podcasters in the Python community, Mike Kennedy, Brian Ocken, Bob Builderboss, all of those guys. The authors of the Python books, Al Swigert and Eric Mathis, we got them on the show. We started doing I mean, we built up this entire head of steam where if we then didn't pull the trigger on it, it's like you can't not do that at that point.
Yeah, it's like well,
Yeah.
I'm not missing today because I'm never going to hear the end of it.
Exactly. So it's everybody's keeping each other honest. We're making it super fun for each other. There's and then you're also helping other folks. I cannot tell you the number of times that I've gotten a text or a DM or just like something on the side where like they're like, dude, this article that you wrote or this piece of this video content that you made got me a new job. I mean, that just makes my month. Every time I see something like that, I'm just like, awesome. Because I do take time out of my day to like help people negotiate a higher salary or look for a new gig or help brush up their resume or something like that. I used to have these coffee hours where I would on Calendly, there was like there was a 15-minute coffee hour at 10 a.m. every morning. And anybody on the planet could book 15 minutes with me of coffee time. So I'm sitting there sipping my coffee anyway. Might as well help somebody out. And yeah, I did that for a long time.
Yeah. Let's see. Jason says, I recommend writing often on LinkedIn. That does a couple things. One, develops your brand, and two, potential engagement around the thought leadership.
Mm.
Yeah. I think
I need
right
to get
now,
better at that.
yeah, I think I post like once a day and then I'll comment and stuff on that. But yeah, I definitely need to get better at doing that as well. But it looks like, I mean, we're a little bit over time. I want to be cognizant of your time and everything. Is there anything else, any last thoughts you want to leave us with? Any tips, things like that?
Oh, so many. Watch V Brown Bag. So we have different series. We have tracks on Python. We have tracks on, currently we're doing one on infrastructure as code. We've done Git. We've done all the things. If there is a piece of content that anybody out there wants to learn about, we might have already done it. And if we haven't, then tell me about it and I'll go find a bunch of preeminent visionaries in said field to come on and talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm good at that.
Awesome. And if you want to post the link in the comments too, just as on YouTube, right, to vBrownBag and to mistwire.com, just to so people have that available. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and close out. But thank you for joining us on this episode of Architects of Innovation, brought to you by Spyglass Partners. We hope you've gained valuable insights and inspiration from our conversation with Chris. Remember, Spyglass Partners is your dedicated IT staffing partner. If you're an IT professional looking to make your next move or a company seeking top-tier talent, you can slide in my DMs or reach out to me at jjewel@spyglasspartners.com. I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode. Until then, this is Joseph Jewell signing off. Keep innovating, keep reaching new heights.
Oh, it's not doing it.